My girlfriend, Diana, ignored all my objections and insisted on going abroad. Her plan was to enter a marriage of convenience with her childhood sweetheart, who was dying of terminal cancer, and have a baby for him to carry on his family name, fulfilling his last wish. On the day of our engagement party, in front of both our families, she walked out cool as you please and flew to another country, turning me into a complete laughingstock. A year went by. Diana came back, but she couldn't reach me. My number was disconnected, and I had already sold the house. She searched for me frantically. Finally, at a college reunion, she found me. She grabbed my arm and demanded, "Frank, what's the point of hiding from me like this? Why are you getting all jealous over a man who was on his deathbed? I had his baby, and now I'm back to marry you, just like I said. Come on, let's go to the courthouse and get it done today." With that, she started pulling me toward the city clerk's office. I quickly pried her fingers off my arm, then gently pulled my wife, who was standing beside me, closer. I smiled and said, "Ms. Reed, you can say what you want, but that doesn't make it true. I've been married for a year, and my wife isn't exactly looking for a sister wife." On the way to the reunion, my college buddy and best friend, Ryan, was giving me a ride. He suddenly asked, "Hey, how come you didn't bring your wife to the reunion today?" I chuckled. She said she was worried I wouldn't be able to relax and catch up with you guys if she came, that a man needs his own space sometimes. Ryan looked at me with pure envy. "Man, you're so lucky to have a wife like that. After Diana ditched you at your engagement party, I thought you'd be a wreck for years. I never imagined it would be the best thing that ever happened to you." I nodded, unable to deny it, and said with a sigh of gratitude, "Yeah, I owe it all to her." Honestly, deep down, I was actually grateful to Diana. If it weren't for her, I never would have met my wonderful wife. A year ago, Diana found out that her childhood sweetheart, Leo Carter, had terminal cancer. Diana and Leo had been inseparable since they were kids, and to ensure the Carter family line didn't die with him, she wanted to give him a child. The thing was, Diana and I were already planning our wedding. What she was proposing was wrong on every level, legally and morally. So, she suggested she go abroad with Leo, have his baby, and then come back to marry me. The moment I heard it, my entire world shattered. But she acted like it was no big deal, as if this was a perfectly normal thing to do. We fought about it endlessly, giving each other the silent treatment for days at a time. I asked her, "Can't he find someone else? Why does it have to be you?" Diana shot back coldly. "Leo and I grew up together. I never knew until he got his diagnosis, but he told me he's been in love with me his whole life, that he always saw me as his future wife. If you hadn't come along in college, I would have been with him. Besides, I'm just having his baby. I'm still going to end up with you. Why are you getting so worked up over a dying man? If you keep making a scene about this, you can forget about us ever getting married." We had a massive fight over it. I had been with her for 5 years. And for those 5 years, anything involving Leo always came first. I could be lying on an operating table after a car crash, and it would still be less important than Leo catching a cold. She literally left me waiting for surgery to go buy him some cough syrup. That's when I started to realize that maybe our entire relationship had been a mistake from the start. If I had known back then that she had a childhood friend so close they'd share the same popsicle, I never would have asked her out, no matter how much I liked her. The day she secretly flew abroad with Leo was the day of our engagement party. Both of our families were there. When Diana still hadn't shown up, her mother called her. She put it on speaker, so everyone in the room heard Diana's voice, cold as ice, cut through the silence. "Mom, tell Frank the engagement is off for now. I'll marry him after I have Leo's baby. If he can wait, great. If not, we're through." As soon as she said it, the entire room was filled with nothing but stunned, awkward silence. My mom was so distraught she collapsed and had to be taken to the hospital. Before that day, I thought Diana was just making empty threats or saying things to win an argument. I never imagined she was serious. After that day, her phone number was disconnected. I couldn't reach her. No one could. My mom was in the hospital for a full month before she started to recover from the shock. During that month, I had a lot of time to think, and I finally saw things clearly. It was a blessing we weren't actually married. Imagine if Leo had gotten his diagnosis after our wedding. If she had decided to have his baby then, I would have been the most humiliated husband in the world. To help my mom get back on her feet, I asked a friend to set me up on some dates. I never expected to hit it off with the very first person I met, and that person was my wife, Grace Miller. She was gentle, understanding, the kind of woman everyone describes as a total sweetheart. Her family had also been pressuring her to get married, which is why they'd set her up on the date. We talked for a bit and discovered we had so much in common, from our hobbies to our interests. She could even play the piano, paint, and do calligraphy. She was a true woman of grace and refinement. We went from that first date to getting our marriage license in a single week. Over the past year, our relationship has been built on mutual respect and deep affection, and our love for each other grew stronger every day. I handled work, and she made our house a home. I have to say, once Diana was out of my life, everything started going right. I quit my old job and turned my side hustle as a writer into my main gig. I never expected it, but my books took off, and I landed a contract with a major publisher. My monthly royalties were in the six figures. I took my earnings and the savings I'd built up over the years and opened a coffee shop. And just like that, business was booming. So I sold a house I had originally bought for Diana and me, and we bought a much bigger one. Every day, I'd come home from the coffee shop to a hot, home-cooked meal made by my wife. It made me think of the 5 years I was with Diana. She never cooked a single meal for me. In fact, I was the one who cooked for her every night after work. I always just assumed she didn't know how, so I never complained about it. I loved her, and I would have happily taken care of her for the rest of my life. But then I learned the truth. It wasn't that she couldn't cook. She just didn't want to cook for me. It was after Leo went hiking, fell, and ended up in the hospital with some serious injuries. Diana went to take care of him every single day. She would cook him different gourmet, healthy meals, changing the menu daily. She'd stay up all night simmering chicken broth or drive halfway across the state to buy the freshest fish for him. At first, I didn't realize the food wasn't for me. I was shocked. I had no idea she even knew how to cook. I took a single sip of the soup she had made for Leo, and in response, she absolutely lost it and screamed at me. She didn't speak to me for a week after that, all over one sip of soup. After things finally cooled down, I wanted to try her cooking again because honestly, it was delicious, way better than anything I could make. So I asked her, could you make some of that chicken soup for me sometime? She was lounging on the sofa and shot me a dirty look. If you want it, make it yourself. That soup takes hours. Are you trying to kill me? I was stunned. I asked without thinking, then why was it okay to make it for Leo, but not for me? She completely blew up, jumping to her feet and yelling, Leo is sick. What's your excuse? You're perfectly healthy. If you want soup, go make it yourself. That night, she slammed the door, went over to Leo's place, and didn't come home. Whenever I think about those times, I can't help but shake my head. I have no idea how I endured it for so long. But looking at the picture of me and my wife, Grace, on my phone's lock screen, my heart felt warm again. It's like fate itself couldn't watch anymore and decided to send Grace into my life. An hour later, we arrived at the reunion venue. It was a rustic, farm-to-table restaurant out in the country. The moment we walked in, our old class president came over to greet us. We were waiting for you too. You're the last ones here, so you've got to do 3 shots as a penalty. And Frank Anderson, you changed your number and didn't tell anyone. If we didn't know you and Ryan were attached at the hip, we would have never found you. For that, you owe us a few more. I gave an embarrassed laugh. My bad, man. I'll do 6 shots later, double the penalty. A year ago, after marrying Grace, I decided to cut off all ties with Diana in that part of my life. Her friends, who I also knew, were not exactly my biggest fans. Every time Diana and I fought, they'd tell her to dump me. They were constantly pointing out my supposed flaws to her. The worst part was, Diana never once defended me. It wasn't until I met Grace that I realized that maybe I do have flaws, but the right person will love you for them. For example, if Grace is running late coming home, I'll send a few texts to check on her. If she's out shopping with her friends, I'll offer to pick them up when they're finished. To Diana, all of those things were my flaws. She found them embarrassing. If she was out at a bar with her friends, and I called to see if she was okay, I was invading her personal space. If I picked her up for work on my scooter, I was totally embarrassing her. But none of that matters anymore. It's all in the past. Now, I have someone who loves that I text her to see how she's doing and who begs me to take her for rides on that same scooter. We made our way to the large private room. I said hello to a few old classmates, made some small talk, and then sat down with Ryan. A woman I'd been friends with in college sat next to me and suddenly asked, Frank, you're 28 now. Still not married? Your girlfriend must be getting anxious. I shook my head. I am married. We tied the knot a year ago. She looked confused. You are? That's weird. I just ran into your wife a minute ago. I asked her, and she said you weren't married yet, but that you were planning the wedding for next month. Now I was completely lost. Grace was here. She told me she wasn't coming. And how would this classmate know about the wedding I was planning for next month? Grace and I had only gotten our marriage license. We hadn't had a ceremony yet since we got married so quickly. She never cared about having a big wedding. She always said that as long as we were happy, that's all that mattered. But I felt differently. After meeting a woman as incredible as her, I felt I owed her a proper wedding, the whole 9 yards, to show her how much she meant to me. That's why I was secretly planning a big wedding for next month as a surprise. No one knew about it, not even Grace herself. So how on earth did my old classmate know? Just then, she pointed toward the doorway. Well, speak of the devil, there she is. You two better get your story straight, because I'm about to find out which one of you is lying. A woman was walking through the door. It was Diana. I had no idea she was back in the country. Before I could even stand up, Diana rushed over, grabbed my arm, and glared at me. So, Frank Anderson, you change your number, sell the house we were supposed to live in, and do everything you can to avoid me. If I hadn't guessed you'd be at this reunion, I would have filed a missing persons report. Now, are we getting married or not? Looking at her now, I felt surprisingly calm. My emotions didn't stir in the slightest. She'd gained some weight, and her figure wasn't what it used to be. It was clear she had a baby, and her body hadn't fully recovered. And, just like always, she was incapable of speaking to me with a shred of decency. I pried her hand off with 2 fingers. Ms. Reed, please have some self-respect. I'm already married. Diana stared at me for a second, her eyes flicking down to the wedding band on my finger. She let out a cold laugh. Frank, is this all just an act to punish me for being gone for a year? Is that it? Well, you succeeded. I've been back for a month and couldn't find you, and I admit I was starting to panic. To make up for the year you waited, you don't have to pay a thing. We'll have the wedding next month, but let's go get the license today. As she spoke, she casually linked her arm through mine. Our old classmates around us started cheering and whistling. The woman I'd been talking to earlier chimed in. Frank, come on, you're not married. Diana was our class beauty, sure, but everyone knows you two have been together forever. No one's going to steal your girl. You don't have to lie to your old friends. I sighed in frustration. I had planned on announcing my marriage to Grace at our wedding next month. I never thought it would lead to this misunderstanding. I quickly pulled my arm away from Diana's grasp, my face hardening. I told you I am married. So please, Ms. Reed, leave me alone. Diana's face flushed with anger. Frank, this little drama of yours is getting old. Do you have any idea how hard this past year was for me? I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. The second I got back, I started looking for you, so we could finally get married and put your mind at ease. And what do I get? You hiding from me. What more do you want from me? Her eyes started to well up as she spoke. Our classmates were completely bewildered, and a few who didn't know the story started to defend Diana. They thought I was some jerk playing with her emotions, leading her on with no intention of marrying her. And that made Diana the victim. With a few people on her side, she must have felt a bit more confident, maybe even thinking she owed me an apology. She reached for my hand again, her voice softening. Frank, don't worry. Once we're married, I promise I'll be a good wife to you. I'll even give you lots of children. She had barely finished her sentence when the door to the room swung open. From the entrance came a voice I knew as well as my own, the voice I heard on the pillow next to me every night. Ms. Reed, you can say what you want, but some things you can't just claim. I'm his wife, and I haven't even had his children yet. So what makes you think you can? And for the record, I don't allow him to have a second wife. Grace walked in, strode over to us, and pulled me away from Diana's grasp. Diana froze, shot Grace a venomous look, and then turned her pale, furious face to me. Frank Anderson, you've really outdone yourself. Did you actually pay for an actress? Where did you find this tramp? Some back alley agency. Her words sent a jolt of pure rage through me. But before I could even move, Grace raised her hand and slapped Diana hard across the face. The sharp crack of the slap echoed through the silent room. I was stunned. My gentle, soft-spoken Grace had just acted completely out of character. When Diana finally registered what had happened, a bright red handprint was already blooming on her cheek. You actually hit me. She lunged forward, ready to strike back. But I stepped in front of Grace, blocking the blow and pushing Diana back. Ms. Reed, show some restraint. My wife slapped you because of your filthy mouth. You have no one to blame but yourself. Diana stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. Frank, have you lost your mind with this act? She hit me. She hit your fiancée, and you're taking her side? I scoffed. She's my wife. Who am I supposed to help you? If you hadn't just given birth, I'd be worried you'd try to pin something on me if you got hurt. Otherwise, I would have been the one to slap you, and I assure you, I wouldn't have held back. My words sent a ripple of murmurs through the room as our classmates began to whisper amongst themselves. The color drained from Diana's face. Diana had a baby? But I thought she wasn't even married. What is going on? I thought Diana was Frank's girlfriend, but this woman is his wife? I'm so confused. Who's the homewrecker here? To make sure no one misunderstood and thought Grace was in the wrong, I spoke up immediately. Everyone, my wife, Grace, and I got our marriage license a year ago. We just haven't had the ceremony yet. We're planning it for next month, and I hope you can all be there. Seeing his opening, Ryan jumped in to back me up. He quickly filled everyone in on the whole story. how Diana had left me a year ago to go abroad with her terminally ill childhood sweetheart to have his baby. In an instant, the entire room turned to look at Diana with a mixture of shock and disgust. My mind is blown. I can't believe the woman I had a crush on for 4 years is actually like this. I'm a woman, and even I'm disgusted. Having a baby with another man is one thing, but to come back to Frank afterward with no shame? Unbelievable. The comments came one after another, and with each one, Diana seemed to shrink, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Her face dark with humiliation, Diana turned on me. Frank, is this your revenge for me having Leo's baby? Are you trying to publicly humiliate me? I just laughed. Her talent for making everything about herself hadn't changed a bit. Did she really think she had any right to talk about shame? I was about to respond, but my wife, Grace, opened her purse, pulled out our marriage certificate, and held it up for everyone to see. Ms. Reed, this is our marriage license, officially stamped by the city clerk. Do you believe it now? And for the record, my husband isn't a vengeful person. Frankly, I feel sorry for him for the years he wasted with you. I got to know him better in 1 year than you did in 5. It was only then, seeing the proof in her hands, that Diana finally accepted the truth. I was married. She seemed to deflate right before my eyes. The shock of the situation, combined with the physical toll of having recently given birth, was too much for her. She fainted, collapsing right there on the floor. Not a single person moved to help her. I had no desire to stay any longer. I quickly invited everyone to our wedding next month, then took my wife's hand to leave. But my wife, as always, was too kind-hearted. Before we left, she called an ambulance for Diana. Once we were outside, I gently booped her on the nose and smiled. There's the sweet, gentle woman I married. For a second back there, I almost didn't recognize the woman who slapped Diana. She rested her head on my shoulder and smiled softly. That was the first time I've ever gotten truly angry in my life. If I hadn't, someone might have tried to steal my husband. I laughed, a genuine, happy laugh. It felt so good to be with someone who truly cared about me. I couldn't resist teasing her a little. Does that mean you have to carry our marriage license with you everywhere you go? Grace blushed and was too shy to answer. The truth is, for the entire year we've been married, she's carried it with her almost every single day. I just never imagined it would actually come in handy. I took her hand, and we started our slow walk home. It was a long walk, but I didn't feel tired at all. On the way, she suddenly asked, "Honey, do you remember saving a girl back in college?" I was completely blank. In college, I spent most of my time either playing video games in my dorm or skipping class with my roommates. I wasn't a bad guy, but hero wasn't exactly on my resume. I shook my head. Grace pouted playfully. Then she began, "At the campus lake, there was a girl who fell in trying to save a kitten. She got the kitten out, but she couldn't get out herself. Just when she thought it was all over, a boy with a lollipop in his mouth pulled her out of the water. The girl tried desperately to get a clear look at his face, but everything was a blur. By the time she was conscious at the hospital, he was gone. She spent years looking for him, but never found him. Then, a year ago, she finally got a lead, but she heard he was going through a tough breakup. She knew she couldn't approach him then, not while he was still healing, so she decided to wait. It wasn't a long wait. Soon, she heard he was being set up on dates. She was ecstatic. She pulled every string she could, called in every favor, and finally, she managed to become one of his dates. When Grace finished her story, she looked at me with hopeful eyes. And for me, it was like being struck by lightning. I did save a girl in college. I was cutting class with my roommates on our way to a land cafe for an all-nighter. We saw a girl struggling in the lake, her head already slipping under the water. None of my 4 roommates could swim, but I could. So without a second thought, I jumped in and pulled her out. We waited for the ambulance to arrive, and once we knew she was going to be okay, my friends and I took off. After all, we had a gaming marathon to get to. Between being soaking wet and pulling an all-nighter, I ended up sick in bed for the next few days. I had a nasty cold and fever and was out of commission for almost a week. I never realized that the wheels of fate had started turning for us way back then. This woman, my wife, had been searching for me for 7 years. Grace, I can't believe that girl was you. Grace just smiled. MHM, I've dropped hints all year, you big goof. You just never put it together. I scratched the back of my head, feeling a little sheepish. She had, in fact, hinted at it many times, but my mind just never went there. I felt like marrying her wasn't just a reward for saving her that day. It felt like I must have done something incredibly right in a past life to deserve meeting her in this one. After that day, Diana tried to contact me many more times. I turned her away every single time. And on the rare occasion she was persistent, I let my wife deal with her. At first, she came alone. Later, she started bringing a child with her. I heard that after Leo passed away, The child was left in Diana's care. She didn't have a steady job, and she was struggling to support the baby on her own. That's why she wanted me to take her in. But that was never going to happen. This isn't the old days. I couldn't just take a second wife. And even if I could, I wouldn't want her, and I would never raise another man's child. Gradually, her visits became less frequent. Meanwhile, my life with Grace just kept getting better. She took over managing the coffee shop, and even opened a few new locations. My writing career took off, and I started to make a name for myself. One day, my wife and I were visiting our main coffee shop. Through the window, I saw a familiar figure standing outside, holding the hand of a small, frail-looking child. Both Grace and I saw them. I shook my head and started to turn away. But Grace stopped me. "Honey," she said with a gentle smile, "it's our monthly free coffee day. Why don't we bring them a couple of hot drinks? It's freezing out there." I looked at her, my heart swelling, and smiled as I gently stroked her cheek. She was always so kind, so full of grace. I nodded. We each grabbed a cup of coffee and brought them outside. Diana didn't say much, but she prompted the little boy to thank me. The child looked up at me and said politely, "Thank you, sir." I smiled and nodded. "You're welcome. It's cold out here. You two should get home." The little boy gave a solemn nod. Diana gave me one final look, and in her eyes, I saw a profound and inconsolable sadness. Then, she took the boy's hand, and they slowly walked away into the falling snow.